Hi there. So I would like to address what Bernie Sanders' personality type is. First of all, I want to talk to you about what is a highly ineffective way to judge a person's type, in this case, a politician. This is judging someone based on their policies, whether they're a good or bad person, whether they are a smart or dumb person. These factors are independent of type. But unfortunately, people use this to type people often along lines of intuiting versus sensing, but this is really, BS. So in this video, I'll approach this purely from the basis of cognitive functions. For me, the clearest way to type someone is to see how they express these cognitive functions in real time. So I believe visual identification is a great way to type somebody as well. So there are different arguments for Sanders type. There's NFJs, INFP, also ENTJ. This last one is supported by celebrity types, and I'll mention why ENTJ, to me, is not a bad guess, but it's incorrect, in my opinion. So if you watch Bernie Sanders speak for any amount of time, it is perfectly clear which function he prefers the most. It is most definitely introvert feeling, and he's a very obvious example of this type. So I don't have to cherry pick any of the videos he says, just put on any video. He is very persistently making FI moral evaluations, mostly from a critical stance. He's always speaking about his attitude or sentiment towards something, his personal evaluation. So all other types could hold his beliefs, but it's the way that he expresses himself that makes him an FI type. So it's clear from his presentation he's very FI. The vast majority of his speech is about his personal subjective evaluation. So I have not evaluated Obama's type, but Obama clearly expresses stronger extrovert feeling than Sanders. So he could have the same kind of criticisms that Sanders has or not. But overall, the way Obama comes off is not as critical. So when Obama speaks in real time, he uses feeling rather instrumentally. So his feeling is like almost probably like a second function, maybe a third, but it's rather instrumentally. So that's in a more prototypical politician kind of way. So I'm not questioning whether he's genuine or not, but the way he uses the feeling function is instrumental. It's used to smooth things over, to joke, to be charismatic. Sanders wins people over differently from Obama. It's through the purity of his feeling sentiment. So feeling is clearly takes a dominant position. It's not a means to an end, it's an ends to itself. So Sanders is very clearly not an extrovert feeling valuing type. An FI dominant type is FE opposing. So clearly his overall message is positive. He has a positive message, but whether someone's message is positive or negative is independent of type. He has a positive message, but it's the way he kind of expresses himself. So Bernie Sanders is capable of playful banter and positive sentiments, which is very, extra feeling kind of stuff, but these expressions tend to be very brief. He comes off as rather serious, and people mistake him as being grumpy, which is a misunderstanding that FI types tend to face. So often, when extra feelings being displayed by other people around Sanders, such as ebullient energy, he would snuff it out and focus the energy right back to introvert feeling. So there's a noticeable resistance to extrovert feeling. It's the opposing function, and introvert feeling dominance suppress extrovert feeling because it is the opposite attitude. It's opposite in attitude. So it's a matter of what's priority. However, so long as introvert feeling needs are met, he is not opposed to extrovert feeling. So you can see Sanders, he's consistently kind of rather serious. His mood seems perpetually locked into the same mood, which is characteristic of FI dominance. Extrovert feeling, when extrovert feeling is expressed by an interlocutor or an audience member, he would either snuff it out or pause and evaluate whether the mood around him is shifting away from what he deems is important. What he doesn't think it's taking away from what he thinks is important, then he allows extrovert feeling to happen. So he's perfectly willing to joke, to laugh, to banter, and lighten the mood, and express his extrovert feeling. It's just a different style, a different way of doing things. I'm just, extrovert feeling types, definitely a lot of them support Sanders as well, equally so as introvert feeling types. So what kind of introvert feeling type is Sanders? He's not an ESFP or ENFP, which are quintessential politician types. So Bill Clinton is an ENFP and ESFP, and an example of ESFP is Caesar. They're actually called the politician in Socionics. So the reason why these two types are good politicians is because they use introvert feeling as a secondary function, which means they use it instrumentally. So this is something that Bill Clinton's very good at. So I explained what that meant before. So using it instrumentally is like you're using the feeling to kind of, in this case, introvert feeling, to kind of build closeness with people, to kind of win them over as a means to an end. So, it could be a good end. I'm not judging whether he's a good politician or not. This is kind of beyond what this video is about. So, Sanders is clearly using introvert feelings as an end to itself. And so I don't think Sanders is an INFP. I'm actually pretty sure he's not an INFP. People make this argument primarily from the standpoint of what he believes. Oh, he's very idealistic. This is an erroneous typing method. Functionally, Sanders very clearly displays extrovert sensing as a secondary function. This makes him an ISFP. He has, his energy is assertive, even confrontational. He uses his forceful and dominant presence when need be. So this is a secondary kind of function. And he presents his views in a very clear-cut kind of SE kind of way. It's situational, so it's a secondary function. So he is tough, he takes control, he cuts off interlocutors when needs be, when introvert feelings being challenged. So when people are judging the types of, the types of what leaders are, they don't usually think of ISFP. This is because the ISFP stereotype in MBTI world is completely off. So anyway, so a lot of stereotypes are true, but in this particular case, the Socionics illustration of the ISFP, which is the ISFJ in Socionics, or ESI, is a lot more accurate. So the fact of the matter is, extrovert sensing is mischaracterized as just this observational function. It's a lot more than that. It's frequently associated in leadership, and Socionics makes that very clear. So there's, statistically speaking, found in leadership positions, has to do with power, discipline, goal setting, push-through qualities that make a strong leader. So they don't, a lot of people don't consider Sanders as an ISFP, but actually he's a quintessential example of the type. They're often strict disciplinarians. They do what they believe is morally pure. So perfectly fitting the role. So they're made out to be these weak types in MBTI. That's really off because SC is very strong, comes off as very strong. ISFPs have a very direct, straightforward, willful way of presenting what they personally believe is right. More so than other types, the way they present it is could be very blunt. So a lot of SP leaders are mistyped as NTJs just because of this. So Sanders has introvert intuition and expresses it in a way typical of ISTPs and ISFPs. So, when it's in the third position, NI tends to have an exaggerated, emphasized consistency of ideology and principles. So he rather really emphasizes this. So that's why he's kind of repetitive when he speaks on these matters. This is a tendency I notice in ISTPs and ISFPs because they want to make sure that they're consistent. So NI dominants are also consistent, but it's like, but tertiary NI with SC secondary in ISTPs and ISFPs kind of gives them kind of like this pit bull kind of energy. So they're, kind of quiet, but when need be, the SE comes out aggressively to protect the NI principles. For NI dominance, that could be the case, but they have very weak X-ray sensing, so it's not that doesn't come off as naturally. So lastly, I want to talk about the visual identification. So I'm going to pull out some pictures here. So what you have here, these are ISFPs on the 16 Types website, and you can see that they have this steely look, and so these are examples of ISFPs in the 16 Types personality website. These are called Filatova portraits. So, as I mentioned, ISFPs kind of have this characteristic grumpy kind of look as their default kind of face. And they also have this characteristic steely look about them. If you look straight at the eyes only, they're pretty stern looking. You really have to focus on the eyes. See, they're pretty stern looking folks. And they also have these pursed lips. They often purse their lips. So I'll show you pictures of Bernie Sanders now. If I can click on it. The steely look. His eyes look stern, and he often purses his lips. Here's another example, and here's an example of him smiling, but even as he smiles, this is an FI smile. The smile's contained in like this area, but the rest of the face is not really smiling that much. That's a characteristic of extrovert feeling. He still has that kind of critical kind of look about him. Now, if you look at ENTJs on the other hand, they actually are cheery-looking folks. They have this characteristic Cheshire cat smile about them. I mean, that's like a pretty big difference. And they have more of like kind of a calculating kind of look about them. Like they're looking off in a distance, and they're a little bit more calculating looking. So that is the big difference. So that is my typing of Bernie Sanders.